After Effects is very powerful and comes with many different effects and presets. For example, if we go into the animation presets, go to text, 3D text, you can see that there are literally hundreds. So if we click on 3D flip, apply it to our text layer, so we can see that over time each letter pops up in 3D. Let's Command Z to undo that. Another example would be slide. We can take slide drop, apply it, and then over time it'll drop in from the top. Hey guys, welcome back to another After Effects lesson. In this lesson we will be discussing how to create a lower thirds title. To get started off, let's go to Composition, New Composition. Let's select 1920 by 1080, our preset that we created in an earlier lesson. We'll go to OK. By default, After Effects resets the working space to none, so I prefer to work in the sRGB, so let's set that up. Alright. Okay, so right now we have no layers and our goal is to create a lower thirds title somewhere around here. So the first thing we're going to do is create a solid. We'll make it the color we want. That's fine. We'll make it comp size. Okay, so now we have a blue solid created. This will be the background color and shape of our lower thirds title. We can either draw it using the pen tool like in a previous lesson, or we can use a preset. For this example, we will use a preset. So we'll click and hold, and we can choose the rounded rectangle. What we'll do is we'll click and drag, and we'll make something that looks like that. We will go back to our selection tool. Now we will click here and drag it to the edge. This is the background now of our lower thirds. So what we can do is give it a little bit of depth by adding a drop shadow. We'll type in drop here up in the effects and presets search bar. We will take the drop shadow and drop it on this layer. We will increase the opacity to 100, increase the distance to 12, and the softness to roughly 10. Now if we click on nothing down here just to clear the selection, we will see what it's doing. Okay, so that looks okay. Next we will create a new text layer. This will be the name that appears on your lower third. So we will type in the name. We will roughly bring it down. We went back to the selection tool, and then we clicked it and we brought it here. We will go into our character. We will click and drag to lower it. We will click and drag it so it goes there. We can change the font color to something that fits better. For now we'll just make it black. Next we will create another text layer, and this will be the subtitle in our lower thirds. So we'll call it AE Training. We will click and drag here. We will lower this. And maybe we'll line it up on this side. Okay. First off, I'm thinking that this could be changed a bit. So what we'll do is we're set to 41% zoom right now. We'll go to 33, so it shrinks a little bit so we can see the edge of this stuff here. What we'll do is we'll actually click on one point, so it sets it up in this selection state. Then outside where there's nothing to select, we click and drag, and we're only going to select those points so that the bottom four are selected but the top four are not. Then we will click and hold, then hold shift, and we will drag up so that it all moves at the same time, and we will shrink it. Then we will click away then click again on one of these. So we're in this selection state again. Then we will click here, hold, select them all, so that these 4 are selected and these 4 are not selected. Then we will click and hold, and again hold shift, and then drag left. Then we will click on nothing down here, and we have reduced the size of our background. Now it looks like the top part could come down a bit, so instead of adjusting the background again, what we can do is just select both these text layers and move them up a bit. So what we'll do is we'll click AE Training, hold shift, and click on this text layer. And then using the up and down arrows, you can actually adjust by a pixel every single time. So let's go 2 pixels. Okay, that looks good. And then what we'll do is on the back here, we'll press enter and call it lower thirds background. After that, what we'll do is we will parent both the top layers to the background layer, and then we will lock the top 2 layers so that if we tried to grab this or this layer, we wouldn't be able to. So the only thing we can edit now is this. But the great thing about this is if we select that and move, the other layers follow it. So it's like they're one layer because we've parented them. So I'm going to Command Z that. So it goes back to the original spot. I'm going to move them off screen a bit. And that looks good to me. So now we're going to start some animating. We will then go into Transform. We'll click on the stopwatch for position. We'll go over to 4 or 5 seconds. And we will then click up here and hold. Then hold shift so that when we drag it, it follows the same line. And we'll go just a bit. Then we will go to 5 seconds. And once again, we'll click and hold shift, and drag it completely off screen. Then we will go to the very first frame and do the exact same. Click and hold shift, drag it off screen. So now we have the first keyframe starts off screen. The second one goes to the first position we made. Then it slowly moves right to the third keyframe. And then the fourth keyframe, it animates backwards off screen again. Sometimes in After Effects, the animation does not work exactly how you want it to, even if you have only 4 keyframes and it seems to be animating where there aren't keyframes. The reason behind this is the keyframe interpolation. And the way to fix this is you highlight all of them, you right click on one, go to keyframe interpolation, and where it says Auto Bezier, switch it to linear. Now what'll happen is it'll go like this, and then it'll slowly move right, and then it'll disappear again. So that's exactly how we want it to animate. In the first year or two of After Effects, I used to actually delete the layer and start over if this would happen because I did not know why it was happening. I thought it was a glitch. I'm hoping that in the future After Effects fixes this, but for now the solution is keyframe interpolation and make sure nothing says auto. So that's it for this lesson. I'll see you in the next. Inside After Effects, there are a lot of great effects you can choose from. For example, inside Blur and Sharpen, we can click and drag the fast blur onto our text. Then we can go into our Effect Controls panel, and we'll see that under the drop shadow we now have fast blur. And under the blurriness layer, we can click and drag to add blur to our layer. Now once again, this can also be keyframed. So for example, let's set it to 0. Click on the stopwatch, and then we'll go over to 4 seconds and put it to 50. So if we go into our text effect layer, drop down the arrow, go into effects, we now see that fast blur has a keyframe there and a keyframe right here. So at here it starts at 0, and as it goes, it grows all the way up to 50. And that gives us a blurring effect over time. Hey guys, welcome back to this After Effects training course. This lesson will be on easing in and easing out to make smoother keyframe animations. Okay, so we have an animation that goes to the right and then goes back to the left. So in order to smooth this out a little bit, what we can do is actually select this keyframe, right click, go to Keyframe Assistant and Easy Ease In, and then we can select this one and go to Keyframe Assistant and go to Easy Ease Out. That makes a specific type of keyframe that will smooth the movement of the transition from the fast movement to the slow movement over here. And this looks like this. So once again, just a slight change. It just slowly transitions into this movement. Okay, so let's say we want this title to show up for the entire 10 seconds. Let's grab those keyframes. Let's press the end key so we go to the end. We'll click and drag that all the way to the end. We'll make sure that lines up there. And we know it's lined up because this is blue again. So now we have a very slow transition, and what we'll do is we'll actually hit 0, and while it renders out, we'll watch this, and then as it gets to the end, it'll start over and we'll see the transition. So it's just a little smoother using the Easy Ease. Alright. Okay, so this would be a perfect example of where we would export this project using an alpha channel. So what we can do is go to Composition, Add to Render Queue. Okay, so we go to Output Module, make sure it's on 1080p alpha. Then we would go to Comp 1. This is where you name it and select the area where it saves. We would go to Work, Project, After Effects Training Course, and Finals. We'd call it Lower Thirds Title. We'd hit Save, and we would hit Render.